Okay, we're live.
Hello. Before we begin, I want to invite our Spanish-speaking community members to click the button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and choose the Spanish option to hear the forum in that language. We'll pause for the interpreter to join us now.
Hola, muy buenas noches. Antes de comenzar, quiero permitirles que los que quieren escuchar en español hagan el clic en lo que es el icono de globo al fondo, al pie de la página de la pantalla. Y así pueden escuchar en español. Muchas gracias. Interpreter Kelly Music attending. I might be promoted to interpreter at this point. Thank you.
Kelly, are you with us?
I'm with you, but I cannot hear you, and I have not been invited to the interpretation mode, if you will.
Okay. All right. Okay, I think that's good to go.
Still no. There we go. It says language interpretation has been ended by host.
All right, that should work for you. Is that good for you now, Kelly? Okay, all right, let's go. We're ready. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, everyone, for technical difficulties there. Welcome to the Longmont City Council Candidate Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Boulder County and co-hosted with Longmont Public Media. My name is Martine Eleanor. I am a proud member of the League, and I am pleased to serve as your moderator for tonight's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. For over 100 years, we have encouraged informed and active participation in government and influenced public policy through education and advocacy. To remain nonpartisan, the League never supports or opposes political candidates or parties. We are pleased tonight to have as our Spanish language interpreter, Kelly Music. Now to the forum. The City of Longmont is governed by a 7-member council. The mayor is elected to serve a 2-year term, and each council member is elected to serve a 4-year term. The mayor and council members are the leaders and policymakers in the community elected to represent various segments of the community and to concentrate on policy issues that are responsive to residents' needs and wishes. Regular city elections, including candidates for city council and any ballot issues or questions, are held in November of odd-numbered years. A special election has been called for November 8th, 2022, this year, or 2022, this year, to fill the vacant Longmont City Council at-large seat with a term ending November 2023, and to present 3 ballot questions to the voters. The format for tonight's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. We will then ask the candidates as many questions as time permits. Questions have been reviewed by our League of Women Voters volunteer screeners and will be addressed to all candidates. We will share questions not asked with the candidates. For most questions, each candidate will have up to 1 minute to respond. However, I may expand the time to answer depending on the question. I will announce if the time has been increased from 1 minute. Our timekeeper, Emma Pillar, will help us stay on track. We will finish with 1 minute closing statements. Tonight's forum participants include, in ballot order, Sean McCoy, Gary Hodges, Mitzi Nicoletti. Now to the opening statements and questions. Please watch for the timekeeper's signal at the 15-second mark and end when your time is up. If you are mid-sentence when your time ends, please promptly finish that sentence so we can move on to the next candidate. For opening statements, we will begin with candidate McCoy for 1 minute.
All right. Thank you, League of Women Voters of Boulder County, for hosting this forum tonight. Hi, I'm Sean McCoy. I've lived in Longmont for 57 years, and I'm a native, as is my wife and my 2 daughters, Claire and Molly. I hold a degree in political science and a master's in education. I've served on the Housing and Human Services Commission, where I supported women and minority issues and distributed community block grants. I've served on the Planning and Zoning Commission to help, see the growth of Longmont and how it was going to go in the future. I've been on the Police Standards Board, the Boulder County Open Space Commission, and I did all this for 18 years before I served on Longmont City Council in 2007 to 2011. I wanted to, sorry, I see you're in the corner there. I want to ask you all to support me in my candidacy and go to McCoyforLongmont.com.
Thank you. Next, candidate Hodges.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to participate. My name is Gary Hodges, and I'm running for this this vacant council seat. I lived in Longmont for 25 years with my wife. We've raised 2 children in town. Our daughter teaches in public schools, and our son's at CSU studying mechanical engineering. I have an ongoing 25-year career with the University of Colorado Boulder and the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. In my role there as a senior associate scientist, I work in the field of atmospheric science. I served 7 years on Longmont's Transportation Advisory Board. That was a good time, got a lot done, and that piqued my interest in participating in the city. And so that just coupled with wanting to run, and that's the primary reason for me choosing to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Nicoletti. Thank you. Candidate Nicoletti.
Good evening. My name is Mitzi Nicoletti, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting us this evening. I have lived in Longmont with my family now for over 20 years. My husband is actually a Colorado native, and our son, daughter-in-law live in Fort Collins. I have thoroughly loved living in Longmont, been very involved in the community, and made some long-lasting friends here. While in Longmont, I've served on several boards, such as the Longmont Downtown Association Board, Sustainable Resilient Longmont Board, and also the Art Walk Board. Most recently, I had the opportunity to chair the Renewable Energy Board for Sustainable Resilient Longmont. I am running for City Council to be involved and provide leadership in the things that I care about, such as housing, the unhoused, climate sustainability, and local businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. For the first question, we'll begin with candidate Hodges. This will be 1 minute. What lessons learned from the first 2 years of COVID-19 response would you want to apply for current or future COVID response and recovery? Looks like you're on mute.
My apologies. Assuming what might occur in the future is the same as what just occurred, I think some of the lessons learned would be we overreacted. We locked down schools too long or too quickly and too long. That has created an education disaster for our city, state, nation, and actually the world, as everybody is suffering from that. I have my daughter's in education. I have a sister in education. That was just a real problem. There's with lots of things. You have 10th graders with 8th grade educations, et cetera. I would also say we would need to be very cautious about determining what businesses are essential. I thought government overstepped their bounds quite a bit in that, and it was ultimately unnecessary. So really just to take a careful look at what we've done and not make the mistakes going forward.
Thank you. Candidate Colletti, 1 minute.
Thank you. If COVID was to reoccur again or flare up again, the things that I would look at and probably do differently is really provide a strong leadership, not only at the national level, the state level and the federal level, that people could follow, that was consistent, and also have a strong supply chain of things that are needed to combat COVID, quicker response to vaccines, and also working with the schools to equip the teachers and students better, and as a community pull together to deal with a situation like this, so that also local businesses wouldn't be affected as severely as they were. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate McCoy, 1 minute.
All right. Well, I would provide good leadership. I think that the consistency of leadership at the very top of the national level was inconsistent. And I would also agree that we need to have a stronger supply chain. And I think that was kind of one of those things that we found ourselves with, this just-in-time sort of mentality that didn't really work very well for that. And as an educator, I think we needed to work on our connectivity. Our students were constantly getting dropped, and I was trying to teach from this office here, and it was difficult for some of them. And I think more communities need to have what Longmont has, and that is a robust Wi-Fi and internet system like we have with Nixlight.
Thank you. For the next question, we will begin with candidate Colletti. What would be your approach to communication and coordination with other municipal and county elected officials on regional issues and shared goals? You have 1 minute.
That has come up in a lot of conversations lately, dealing with safety in the communities, affordable housing. I think working with other counties, communities is critical, and being open to suggestions, working as a team, and forming almost like a task force with these different entities to solve problems, improve situations, and also come up with other ideas. Because a lot of times in other communities, there might be more expertise that would be available. So I would highly support correlation with other groups and work as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, candidate McCoy, 1 minute.
When I served on council in 2007 to 2011, we would go every year to the National League of Cities conference in Washington, D.C., where we'd find out how other communities are doing these things and work with our local communities that also attended there and do that and went to that conference. We also had a conference with the Colorado Municipal League, and the Colorado Municipal League is a clearinghouse for exactly this sort of thing. I think we need to work very closely with other municipalities in the surrounding area, the Tri-City area, and Boulder County. And I think that we need to always have positive communication with them. And I think one of the ways of doing that is to work through the municipal league and make those types of things happen, because that's really where it comes from. So you also get good education that way on what other cities are doing.
Thank you. Candidate Hodges, 1 minute.
State of Colorado has been liberalizing drug laws. They've been decreasing penalties on crimes. They're about to get started on felony crimes. Our Attorney General Wisner recently said maybe if you steal a car 4 times, you should have bail at that point. So the cities are suffering. Crime rate in Colorado is in single-digit top categories across the nation. It's a massive problem for all the cities in Colorado. I would like to see, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I would like to see us rally around, get the mayor and city council to write letters in conjunction with all the communities to send to our state representatives, senators, governors, and try to let them know what is going on and do what we can as a city to try to influence the state on some of these important crime issues and safety issues.
Thank you. Candidate Hodges. Oh. Oops, I think you just went. Candidate McCoy.
I went on just a moment ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake.
She went first, then
Should be
me.
Candidate Nicoletti.
She went first.
Oh, let me see here. What happened? I lost track. 1 moment. Okay, sorry about that. For the third question, for the next question, it'll begin with candidate McCoy. If elected, how would you more meaningfully engage community members who have been historically underrepresented in government and policy dialogue? You have 1 minute.
Well, when I was on council, we developed this Coffee with Council to have a more casual relationship with our community members so that people could feel more comfortable, because it is a little intimidating to come up to the podium and give your address and to state your feelings in 3 minutes. And so we started that Coffee with Council, myself and Sarah Levinson and Brian Hansen, so that we would have a little bit more of a casual sort of approachable communication with others. But I also think that our newsletter going out to community members in both English and Spanish is critical. I think also our access channel is critical for keeping people in the know. And I also feel that just maybe having opportunities to meet with people in regards to at different civic events like Cinco de Mayo, having tents like we do helps stop that barrier of communication and make it grow in a positive way.
Thank you. Candidate Hodges, for 1 minute.
Hi, thank you. So I'm not sure how we would go about targeting any particular community other than continuing to be open and welcoming to everybody, which I believe we are as a city. I was at an event last night and there was a Hispanic lady there and she was asking me about interpretation at the council events, and that's something that sounds like a good idea. I'd be happy to consider ideas like that. The community events that we offer, the Main Street parades, unity in the community, what have you, those are all good things. And just continuing what we're doing now, being opening and welcoming to anybody that wants to participate.
Thank you. Candidate Colletti, for 1 minute.
It's a good question. Community members that have sometimes been left out are marginalized. I think ways of reaching them is definitely coffee with council. And also, I've been going around and attending different events, and I think it's a good way to visit with the community and get to know them. I know when I was on the Sustainable Resilient Longmont Board, when we offered activities for Earth Day, we actually did one full day in Spanish and then had it translated into English. So, you know, making people feel comfortable and that they have a voice in the community is critical. And a lot of that is just being listened and included, and also sometimes attending different members' meetings and seeing what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next question, there will be 1 minute to respond. We'll start with Candidate Hodges. How might you work to help make sure the city of Longmont prioritizes human rights and civil rights? For 1 minute.
Well, do we do that now? I think we're doing that now. I'm not sure how the city is letting anybody down in this moment. If we are letting anybody down, I would like to know about it. That's something I would like to tackle right away on city council. This is a kind of a follow-on from the previous question. I think it's really about being open and welcoming to anybody that wants to participate. I think we have a open and welcoming city as it exists. I see lots of people engaging in the city in a variety of ways, whether that's at parks or downtown events, etc. So I think right now we're doing a pretty good job as it stands. Thank you.
Candidate Colletti, for 1 minute.
I do know that the city does focus on that, and they're very conscientious about human rights and civil rights, and they focus on being welcoming and inclusive, but there are times where that doesn't always happen. You know, the ball gets dropped and people don't feel like their rights are noticed or recognized. So I think keeping that in the back of our mind, that is a critical piece, especially if someone is serving on city council, that we keep that as a focal point in the decisions we make. And anything that we do as far as programming services and the way we treat our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate McCoy, for 1 minute.
I teach U.S. government at Monarch High School in Louisville, Colorado. And one of the assignments I assign my students to is to do a thing called Project Citizen, where they attend a city council meeting and then report back. These communities have, Superior and Louisville have human rights commissions. They also have cultural commissions. And I think that's one way to make sure that we are addressing that. We have a Human Housing and Human Services Commission, and maybe that actually meets that, so that we are actually addressing issues as they come up. I know that the reason why we have El Comité in our community is because we didn't always adhere to that. And we've had the strong Latino presence in Longmont through El Comité because we now understand the value of that. So I think we continue to support that. And I think communication is the key here. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll start with candidate Nicoletti for 1 minute. Businesses are still suffering from the impacts of COVID, inflation, supply chain issues, etc. How might you work as a council member to help address these needs?
That's an excellent question, and it's come up a lot when I've been out canvassing. I know one of the critical things to do is really to encourage our community to shop local. As you said, a lot of the businesses have been hit hard, and they still are suffering the ramifications from COVID. Supplies are more expensive. A lot of times rent now is more expensive. Just to run and pay employee fees. So keeping our money local is critical, and the business community working together so that they can cross-promote each other. I was at an event recently where I witnessed that. You know, an event was at one business and the business was cross-promoting another business. So our local businesses are critical to the health of our community.
Thank you. Candidate McCoy for 1 minute.
So I think that, shopping local is really important. And I think that our small businesses are the backbone of our community. I think they do more for our community than anything else because they bank with us. They buy some of their supplies locally. And so they're really critical to making sure that they're supported. We have city services that actually help this in our city departments. And I think that if we're looking to help make sure that they have the tools for the future, then we have to also hope that we can work with our community college to help make sure that we have the employee base that they need. And so those are the sort of things that we can do. We can have job fairs to help support the community, and so that people can find that connection between employer and employee. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hodges for 1 minute.
So during this campaign, I've spoken with many businesses and owners and managers, and an overwhelming response I'm getting is they're feeling neglected by the city, and they're feeling neglected through a number of ways. So the city's not dealing with vagrancy. They feel they're singled out for code violations. And if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I want to be the council member that is an advocate for our businesses. They're not being treated well. I heard a story 2 nights ago of chair being thrown through a window of our local business, and that the person that did that was never arrested. They just want a better partnership with the city. They need red tape removed so that they can expand businesses and provide jobs, and stop being neglected and targets of unnecessary targets of code enforcement.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll start with candidate McCoy. This is in regards to the Clover Creek neighborhood. This question was submitted by someone in the community. I'll read it in the voice of the questioner. So if I say we or our, keep in mind it's a constituent. Our Clover Creek neighborhood group is concerned about the city of Longmont cooperating with Boulder County to terminate inherently perpetual conservation easements. They are currently attempting to terminate the Kanemoto conservation easement adjacent to Clover Creek on the south side. They want to sell the property to a developer for a 358-unit housing development. We do not want this new development causing disruption to our neighborhood and surrounding area with increased traffic, utility construction, and overloading the school system. We would especially like to know your position on whether local municipalities have any right to terminate conservation easements that were established as landed treasures in perpetuity. I'll start with 90 seconds for this one.
Well, I wrote the Boulder County Planning Department, and I got a response back on this issue, trying to address probably maybe this particular individual's question. And they said that this was prompted by the partially by the city of Longmont. And this kind of is one of these knee-jerk responses by the current council to address this idea that if they build it, they will come, and that they can build their way out of these problems like this. And they didn't just do it here. They did it also, this happened in 2018. They also changed the Bond Farm, zoning from what was kind of medium density, mixed use density to a higher density. And, they can't handle the traffic in that area on Spencer and out there on Airport Road. We do not need to have developments that do not have any services around them. So you have 358 different units with maybe 2 cars leaving each one of those, having to go somewhere to get any sort of services, whether it be recreation, whether it be restaurants or bars, or just to get food at the grocery store. It's not going to be a positive thing. And I think that we have to be very selective and very targeted with our development. And right now, I think if we're going to do any sort of high density, it has to be purchasable units. And I don't think that's where these developers are wanting to go. Development has to pay its way. And our main focus here is the clientele of Longmont, who is currently here. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hodges, 90 seconds.
So there may be a legal leg for the county to stand on, I don't know, but what they certainly don't have is a moral leg to stand on, this county or the city. It's really outrageous what is happening with that Kanemoto conservation easement. It was established in 1982. Everybody that bought houses in the area expected that. They were told it would never be built on. And to have the county, dishonestly but cleverly insert these clauses into these contracts so that they can someday weasel out of them and then do what they want with them in the cooperation with the city, who can annex that property and then zone it however they wish, is changing the rules midstream. We buy houses based on a certain set of parameters that we understand to be true. That can include all kinds of things: shopping center access, park access, and certainly green space conservation easements. And I would absolutely oppose this. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I would vote against the annexation of this property, and I would oppose any termination of any conservation easement on the borders of Longmont, and to preserve our land as we thought was being done when these conservation easements were being established. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Nicoletti, 90 seconds.
When I'm out canvassing, one of the top concerns that comes up is the amount of development that's going on, traffic and resources. So this falls right in line with that. I think that the Kennemoda conservative easement should stay in its original intention. I would not support letting that be dissolved. I just don't think that's right. The property is a commercial property. And as mentioned, that area has so much traffic already. It's very concerning. I know our community is concerned about the traffic flow, the amount of space, and then of course, the possibility of losing that easement. The other thing that has come up recently is the talk of, especially in certain circles, developing some open space. So I think we need to support open space easements that were put in place and also do smart development and consider the resources that are going to be needed, such as water, in these developments going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll start with candidate Hodges. The city of Longmont participates in many regional government collaboratives, including for affordable housing planning. How would you support staff in achieving more housing options for low-income community members? You have 1 minute.
Affordable housing, I know there's different terms for different names of this. I'll just consider it all in one category. Longmont does not exist in a bubble. Anything we could do in our city to make housing affordable would immediately make it attractive to people seeking housing in surrounding areas. We're easy commuting distance to probably at least a half dozen cities, probably closer to a dozen, and different work centers around. I don't think affordable housing is possible in the broad-based way that it is discussed. Doesn't mean that I'm opposed trying, but I'm very dubious of really being able to solve it. It's bumper sticker politics. It sounds good. Everybody loves affordable housing. The cheaper your housing is, the more disposable income you have. But to solve it in a really comprehensive way that is perpetual and long lasting, I think is not too realistic.
Thank you. Candidate Colletti, 60 seconds or 1 minute.
Affordable housing is a top on my list and really doesn't exist. And it's keeping people from, entry-level housing. And also it's critical to our essential workers that they can live here where they work. There is a proposition that's going to be on the ballot on November 8th. It's Proposition 123, and it's adding additional funding for affordable housing from existing taxes that already are being paid to the sum of about $270 million a year. But right now, we really don't have any entry-level housing, which is critical. And as I said, it's forcing essential workers out, and it's not attractive to our community. And if you're renting and you're paying $1,800 a month for a 1-bedroom, how are you going to save to transition into permanent housing? Thank you.
Candidate McCoy for 1 minute.
All right. Our current affordable housing goal is 12% by 2035. I would propose that we need to increase that to about 15%. The reason being is that there was a time there that we had an affordable housing process, and then it was scrapped in around 2009. And so we need to have to build that inventory of housing back up for our critical, employees. And also we need to address things like Proposition 123, trying to make sure that our community has ways of approaching and trying to fix this. But we're not going to be able to build our way out of this. We're going to need to work with realtors, developers, and community stakeholders to make sure that our community has what it needs for essential workers. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll begin with candidate Nicoletti. Given the increasing dialogue about unhoused people in public spaces, what solutions do you have for how the city should address the situation? We'll do 90 seconds for this one.
Thank you. I think changing the narrative around our unhoused community and really focusing on housing first. You know, I think the city does a great job providing services. We have a lot of nonprofits that work together, such as Hope, and they provide a lot of great services. We do not have any overnight shelters right now, so doing housing first is critical. We also have vouchers out there right now for the unhoused to transition into permanent housing, but there's about 20 vouchers and they cannot be used because there's no inventory for those vouchers. The other thing that happens when rent goes up by $100, it increases the homeless by 9%. And the main reason for homeless really is economic situations. Over the last year, I've had the opportunity to work on a team, and we are working on solutions for our unhoused community that do involve more permanent housing. Taking housing first is our top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate McCoy, or 90 seconds.
All right. Well, I think first we have to treat our homeless community with respect and dignity. I think that's really, these are humans, and we need to not refer to them in derogatory terms. I also feel that that we need to address housing first. That's what has been a proven program out there. I think we need to, again, work with the nonprofits. And we need to consider maybe implementing some sort of temporary housing or shelter service. And I suggest maybe doing that down at the blighted property of Nelson and Hover, where the old Walmart was. We need to do something and work in conjunction with the city of Boulder, like we did with their shelter, and try to make things so that we find out who needs what. Right now, they're doing day services with the day shelter services with the Boulder shelter. And that's how you find out if people have mental illnesses or addiction illnesses or illnesses, some other situation, or are they just unhoused? They've fallen in hard times and they need some help. We need to make sure that we consider that people are inherently trying to always better themselves, and sometimes we have to they need a little help once in a while. So I think we need to be sensitive to that, and I also think that we should try some jump drive or drive systems where we help store people's information so that if it gets lost, we can help them recover it.
Thank you. Candidate Hodges, 90 seconds.
A complicated issue, a difficult nut to crack. The city of Longmont publishes this pamphlet right here, Resources for People Experiencing Homelessness. Anybody can download it. It's filled with short-term sheltering options for a wide variety of different categories of people: single men, youth, women, and children, etc. So good people can argue we need more, but equally morally and good people can say we have enough right now. There's not an objectively correct answer in that regard. Another truth is there is not a static number of people that are willing to live on the streets. There's an infinite number of people that are willing to do it given the right incentive options, which could be decriminalizing drugs, not prosecuting shoplifting, etc. Housing first is mentioned. That would be a disaster. If you look at Seattle as an example, you can see what's going on there. That just expands the incentive package. to attract people that end up living on the street. That city and others like it, Denver, San Francisco, Portland, are all experiencing massive increases in their homeless, and they've been throwing money at it for a long time. We're not going to do this with expanding services.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll start with candidate McCoy. While in office as mayor, should officials come forth with endorsements of candidates for council positions while stating it is a free speech right? You have 1 minute.
Well, I know that our mayor has done that, and I haven't seen that since Brian Baum was mayor, and I kind of feel that that sometimes creates a problem where people are now going to have to maybe work with somebody that they didn't endorse, and I think that's just kind of tacky and bad policy, and I think it is a reflection on an individual who chooses to do that in the poorest of light. So I think that we want to be open and transparent, and you do have the right to do that, but it doesn't mean that it's a very class act to do that. So that's just my opinion, and I wouldn't do that while I served on council.
Thank you. Candidate Hodges for 1 minute.
I don't care if the mayor endorses a candidate or doesn't endorse a candidate. It's not clear that it's an advantage either way. So if people don't like the mayor, whoever that is, and they endorse a candidate, is that going to help that candidate? And the opposite is true. So I don't see it as some inherent advantage or disadvantage on that. On that regard, and so yeah, whatever. I would not oppose putting any kind of policy in place that prevents it. If I got on city council, I don't know. I mean, I might want to endorse somebody or I might not. I tend to think I wouldn't do it, but I would leave that up to the individual and whatever they feel is right for them and in that moment.
Thank you. Candidate Colletti for 1 minute.
That's a good question. I know over many years, mayors have endorsed candidates that actually could work for or against the candidate, depending on how the community feels about the mayor. It's really a non-issue, and it is a freedom of speech. And I've seen it happen in different cities. So it's really up to the mayor if they feel like they want to support somebody, and how that's interpreted is up to the person that does interpret it. But it is done quite often. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For the next question, we'll start with candidate Hodges. Following elections, should newly elected council members immediately move to change meeting times to reduce contact with the public? You have 1 minute.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? I'm not quite sure I understand the gist of it.
Yes. Following elections, should newly elected council members immediately move to change meeting times to reduce contact with the public?
If the question is about the city council meetings, or I'm not sure what meeting times that they want reduced and why to reduce it. So I'm going to answer no to that question, mostly because I guess I don't quite understand it, but I'll follow it up with a question that I think we can really talk about, and that's the the time it takes to be a council member and participating in all the advisory boards and such. And my understanding is years ago, there wasn't the requirement to serve on all the boards. It's a great idea. You know, it makes sense, but it does have a perverse effect of limiting the people that are willing to run for city council because of the amount of time that is required. So I would have discussions on this in the more broader general way as far as that goes, but I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Candidate Nicoletti.
At the start of this council year, I remember there was a reduction of council meetings that began. I think someone brought it up. So instead of the council meeting 4 times a month, now they meet 3. And I do know council meetings are extremely long, and that the city council itself does have other meetings they do in conjunction with the regular council meetings. So it seems like it's still been pretty effective. I don't know if that's happened in other cities. Unfortunately, it does seem that city council meetings in general are poorly attended, and I think it would be great if they did have better attendance, whether in person or virtual. So as you mentioned, I do believe at the start of this year, we went to 3 meetings a month. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate McCoy.
When I first got on council in 2007, the previous mayor had decided to, and council had decided to go and take away public invited to be heard at the end of the council meetings. And we brought that back because it's so important to hear from the public. I did attend those boards and commission meetings. I did attend my council meetings, and I did go to coffee with council. It's part of the job. You need to know what you're getting into. Eric Doring had to resign because he had started missing council meetings. He's a previous council member years ago. And we have a caveat in the charter that says you have to be present there. And so he had to resign. I think this was a convenient move for people that didn't understand what the job entailed. And I think that I'm seeing the result of this in issues around Clover Creek and other things like that, because they're doing it too fast and too furious. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be the last question for the evening before closing statements. We'll begin with candidate Nicoletti. Do you support reinstating GRIP, or Gang Response Intervention Program, with the rise of gang-related violence? Why or why not? You have 1 minute.
I know gang violence has been on the uptick, and it's been a huge concern for the community, especially as we continue to grow. And anything that supports better management of gang violence I'm in favor of. I know that the police force recently hired on additional 22 officers. We've been down for quite a while. And so those officers will go through training, and I think that will help in combating some of the situations that have been occurring. But the gang violence is very disturbing and disruptive to our community. I think it's imperative that our community feels safe, and children feel safe going to school and being in public places. So that's a top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate McCoy for 1 minute.
I think that with the bringing on of new peace officers in our community, you'll have that that term is constable on patrol, that communicating with the public, people get a better idea of that there's actually a presence there. And I think that will actually help the community quite a bit. And I feel that if we go ahead and pay attention to things like next door and park bench, we hear about all this issues around safety. We'll have to cross that bridge and get community members to work in conjunction with our police to make sure that our community is a safer place. So I think that gang violence is serious, but I think that we also need to make sure that we are communicating with our community about what is the real root and issues going on in certain areas of the community.
Thank you. Candidate Hodges for 1 minute.
I would support reinstituting that program, and I would support it because of the problems that we're having. Look, crime is up across Colorado. I'm happy we've hired officers. I would like to push to make Longmont the city that police officers and other surrounding communities want to move to. They lost qualified immunity from the state. A bold idea might be for the city of Longmont to step in and provide that umbrella coverage for our peace officers, so they understand that the city has their back and supports them. Right now, they operate in fear of being sued, and they are tending to avoid some situations that might be problematic. And we just really need to make sure that we support them, because it's such a core function of our city. We can't let it lapse.
Thank you. And now for closing statements. We'll begin with Candidate McCoy. You have 1 minute.
Thank you again, League of Women Voters of Boulder County, for hosting this forum. Experience and integrity, as well as compassion, matters when you're representing a fantastic community like Longmont. I've said it at the beginning of this forum tonight, how I served this community on multiple boards and commissions for the course of 18 years prior to serving on Longmont City Council, and how during those 4 years I served on council, I was a liaison to 8 different boards and commissions. And yes, I actually attended those meetings, and how I worked hard to educate myself about other communities and how they solve many of the same problems we had and have here throughout through the National League of Cities professional development courses. And I've also educated myself with after council, working with the Working Families Party to learn more about how I can be more supportive of minorities and women's causes. I'm running for city council because I believe in Longmont, and I just want you to know that I'm here for you. My email is mccoyforlongmont.com. I mean, my website. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hodges for 1 minute.
Thanks again for this forum. Anybody who's paid any attention to the 3 candidates running for this seat will understand clearly that I'm bringing a different voice to the race and generally to council as it exists. So I don't claim to be objectively correct on my positions. What I do claim is that this different voice I'm bringing will make the process work better. If everybody is on council is around the same point of discussion, good solutions won't come about. We get good solutions when there's a wide diversity of opinions and coming at difficult problems from different angles. And the process will work better if I'm elected than somebody that's going to be more in line with the current council. So I encourage people to vote for me, and you can go to my website, Hodges4council.com. That's Hodgesforcouncil.com. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Candidate Colletti for 1 minute.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this evening. If I'm elected, I'll bring a variety of skills to the current city council having worked with cities across the country as when I was managing a national event. I have skill sets that can bring negotiating, compromising, working as a team to solve solutions. I feel like I'm fair, ethical, and focused, and I stay on course. So I would bring skills also with my background in climate resiliency and the teams I've worked on, whether it's in the unhoused or obtainable housing and working with local businesses. I would appreciate your vote. You can go to my website, which is mitziforlongmont.com. Feel free to leave any comments or concerns, and I look forward to the possibility of being elected to council. Thank you so much.
Thank you. On behalf of the League, I would like to thank our candidates, not only for their participation in tonight's forum, but also for their participation in the democratic process. Running for office and serving as an elected official is hard work, and we really appreciate your efforts. Thank you to our League Candidate Forum volunteers, and especially to Longmont Public Media for co-hosting this forum. And a huge thank you goes to our 2022 election sponsors, Big Red F Restaurant Group, Christina's Luxuries, Elevations Credit Union, High Plains Bank, Lion Gaddis Attorneys at Law, and Simmons Family Fund. To view this forum, please go to the League's website at lwvbc.org for the link. And finally, thank you to the Longmont voters participating tonight as viewers. It's up to all of us to make sure we respect and work to protect our democratic processes. Too many people have struggled to win these rights for us not to use them. It starts with being an informed and active voter. The League of Women Voters of Boulder County works through the year to empower voters and defend democracy. If you would like to lend your time and skills to encourage civic engagement for all people in a nonpartisan manner, please join us. All of the information that you need is available at www.lwvbc.org. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.